The easiest and most effective way to improve as a bike rider is to get more comfortable with your balance points over your front and back wheels. The closer you can get to each balance point, the better control you'll have over the bike, which means you'll have more room to move around while you're riding. Today we're going to focus on the front wheel balance point. Getting comfortable here means that we're going to be more confident riding steep stuff, and it's also going to help you out with your front wheel pivots. Many riders skip over practicing the skill because they're afraid of flipping over the handlebars, but what you'll be surprised to learn today is just how far forward you can go on that front wheel before you hit that balance point. Finding out where the balance point is going to give you a lot of newfound confidence on the bike. My name is Aaron. Welcome to Super Rider. On this channel, we break down complex bike skills into easy to learn techniques so you can quickly apply it to your own riding. Today, we're going to focus in on a skill called the Endo. Some people refer to this as a Stoppie, but the main difference between a Stoppie and an Endo is that an Endo is a complete stop on the front wheel, whereas a Stoppie is a rolling Endo. Both the Endo and the Stoppie are very similar, the only difference being that the Stoppie requires a little bit more front brake modulation. But since they're so similar, we're going to learn both of them today. Let's quickly talk about our bike setup. There's two important things that we want to have for today. Number one, our hands need to be as wide as possible on the bars, only using our index finger for braking so we have maximum control over the bike. And we want to switch to flat pedals. That way, if we do end up going over the bars, we can quickly step off the bike. The simplest way to learn the Endo, and the way that most people end up doing it, is by grabbing a handful of front brake and hoping for the best. But that's not really how we do things around here. We're a lot more about bike control, and so that's exactly how we're going to approach the Endo so that we have maximum control over this technique, which translates to maximum control over the bike. The first thing we want to focus on is lifting the back wheel off the ground with our feet. We do that with a specific technique so that we have maximum control over that back wheel, and that technique is called the pedal scoop. The pedal scoop is a motion where we push down, back, and up on our pedals. We pair that with an unweighting of the back wheel, and the way that we do that is by pushing all of our body weight toward the handlebars. Try this out, just rolling along. Put your hips up by the handlebars and just focus on using your feet to push the back wheel up into the air. We'll use the pedal scoop motion to keep control of the back wheel while we're doing the Endo. Instead of relying on momentum and the front brakes to do it, we're going to use our feet to keep that back wheel in check. Now that you can do that pedal scoop technique rolling, let's try to slow things down just a little bit more. Slow the bike to an almost stop and try to repeat that pedal scoop motion. You don't have to go huge here. We're just going after consistency, getting the back wheel off the ground. Remember to keep your weight forward and focus in on that back pedal to really get that back wheel off the ground. Let's move on to getting our front brake completely locked and doing the same technique. Again, no need to get that back wheel off the ground more than a few inches. We're focused in on the pedal scoop technique. Not required, but if you really want to challenge and isolate your pedal scoop technique, try it from a standstill. If you can do this same back wheel lift from a track stand, you know that you've got your pedal scoop technique completely locked in. It's time to apply it to the Endo. You've likely heard me say that practice makes progress anytime we're working on any bike skill, and that's definitely true here. We're gonna slowly work our way up to that front wheel balance point. To get your Endo practice started, roll along slowly and then lock up the front brake. Use your pedal scoop technique to lift the back wheel up off the ground and keep your arms straight as you lean forward toward the handlebars. We now know that the pedal scoop technique can do a lot of the work for us when it comes to lifting up that back wheel, so we don't need to go into this first attempt too quickly. The number one mistake people make when they're learning Endos is that they go in too fast into the Endo technique, and that's how they lose control. One other thing that helps us stay in control of the bike is that we spread our knees apart to let the bike continue to rotate upward. The second mistake riders make with the Endo is freezing themselves into the original position, and that pushes their body way over the balance point. Here's a fun drill that will help you get comfortable on your front wheel. It's called the ET, and it helps you by making you focus on something other than your front wheel balance point. To do the ET, you'll grab that front brake and start pedaling as soon as your back wheel lifts off the ground. Try to get 1 or 2 full pedal strokes around, and notice that you're focused in on that instead of how steep you are over the front wheel. You'll also realize that the steeper you are on the front wheel, the more time you have to pedal, and that's how this whole thing works. We talked earlier in this video about keeping our hands super wide on the handlebars and only using our index fingers for braking to have maximum control over the bike. If you somehow manage to find that balance point on the front wheel and you feel like you're going to go over the bars, the best thing you can do is put your hips down as quickly as possible and ease off that front brake. That should return you to normal. The most important part of this practice is realizing how far forward that balance point is over the front wheel. Once you've found that balance point, you realize how much more room you have to move around on the bike, and that helps us out so much when it comes to riding steeper and steeper terrain. At this point, there are 2 additional skills we can apply this to. We could learn stoppies, or we could learn front wheel pivots. To learn stoppies, we'll find a slight downhill and get into our endo position. You won't need to be as steep over the front wheel, and you'll roll into the downhill at a slow speed. Tap your front brake and drag it a little bit to feel the modulation of the front brake. You don't want to completely lock it up on the stoppie, just enough to keep you over the balance point and rolling. To go farther, you'll have to start with a little extra speed and use slightly less brake. This one takes a while to master completely, but it's super fun. The other skill we can learn from here is called the front wheel pivot, and if you want to just test the waters with it, try turning your front wheel away from your forward foot when you tap that brake, and that'll give you a good starting point. But if you want to learn all about it, this video right here is going to give you everything you need. Have fun out there, and don't forget, practice makes progress.